So kia ora everyone, I'm Carolyn Young, Chief Executive at Retail NZ, and welcome to today's webinar. We will be discussing the next generation barcodes and what New Zealand retailers need to do to prepare for this change. It's a really exciting time. Today you're going to hear about the new 2D barcodes that will be introduced by the end of 2027, so not far away, within the next 2 years. The 2D barcode contains a wealth of information for consumers and retailers, ensuring everyone that can access information that they need to know about the product, including expiry dates, where the product was made, what the product contains, and much, much more. This is the next revolution that will assist retailers with inventory management, with safety, traceability, sustainability, consumer engagement, and improved packaging. To hear more about these changes, I'm joined today by a couple of team from the GS1, Richard Maniton and Clary Shellhole from GS1 New Zealand. Richard's the Chief Operating Officer and he's got extensive experience in fast-moving consumer goods across New Zealand, Asia and the UK. Richard has held senior roles at Fonterra, Goodman Fielder, Watties and many more. Clary is the 2D barcode lead at GS1. She's all over this team. She supports businesses through the 2D transition. She brings 20 years of experience with Avery Dennison in Europe, Novex Solutions, and was Executive Director at Trust Alliance. Kia ora team and welcome.
Thank you, Carolyn. Great, thanks for that. Now, I'm sure many of you will know of GS1 in some capacity, but just so that everybody does understand, we are fundamentally an open standards organisation. We sit as a not-for-profit organisation owned by New Zealand businesses in New Zealand, and our counterpart businesses around the world are owned by their manufacturers and retailers in their market. And we have three core activities. We are in the business of identifying products, locations, companies, and things like logistics units. We also use barcoding technology or RFID technology to be able to identify those products in real time via a simple scan. And lastly, with the combination of correct identification in real time, we're able to share large payloads of data between a manufacturer and a retailer or a purchaser about products master data and the information that's required to usually purchase, move, and sell that product in a retailer supply chain. And it's really that capture column in the center that we're going to talk to you today about this revolution that's coming around barcode technology. Now, you'll be used to the stripy barcode on the left of this illustration. But what's coming is sometimes referred to as a 2D barcode, and that's because it's using both the vertical and the horizontal dimension to load data and to be read. Now, the key here is these barcodes can load a large number of additional product attributes over and above a traditional 2D barcode. Sometimes these are referred to as 2D barcodes, or they might be referred to as digital labels, but they're all the same thing. They quite simply are a barcode that goes beep at the point of sale, like a vertical stripy barcode does today, but it also presents an awful lot more information that can be read at the point of sale by you, the retailer, or indeed read by your customer in your store or at their home by simply using their smartphone to scan the QR code and receive a huge amount of data via the web. I should make the point that the 1D barcode is not going away. The 2027 sunrise date is an expectation that all retailers globally, and this has been established as a global ambition by global manufacturers and global retailers, will be able to read and ingest information on a 2D. But the 1D is not going away. This is a choice for manufacturers to use either a 1D or a 2D, but we think the benefits are overwhelmingly in favor of a 2D, that it's going to happen. As a retailer, there's two hats you need to wear. The first is you need to be ready to scan these new barcodes that are coming through, because they're going to come from any third-party manufacturer, and you'll need to be able to scan them. And ideally, you want to take the data that's in there and use it for your own business benefits. But secondly, you also should be thinking about this if you have your own brands or you have exclusive brands that are subject to supply contracts, because you may be able to have specific products information loaded into that 2D barcode that your consumers can scan with their smartphone and improve their customer experience. This does represent an opportunity for you to reduce costs, particularly in your supply chain, particularly around wastage. It might help some of your shrink issues, especially if you go to serialization. And you can create better experiences for your customers. And of course, with that, you're going to get far more transparency because you'll have better product identification and you'll get better speed and therefore better trust in terms of the data, because you're in control of the data that's being issued on your brand to your customers. So I'm going to hand over to Claudia, who's going to really talk through the information that can be embedded into these barcodes, what that means for you as a retailer, and some examples of what's happening globally.
Hello, everybody, and servus, as we would say in my hometown in Munich. My name is Claire Schellover, and a little bit background of myself is I'm passionate about product identification and bringing the digital and physical world together. I have the experience in the supply chain, and I hope we can make it a great benefit and an opportunity for you as to make you aware of the two-dimensional barcodes and what's coming in our journey. Today it's all about awareness, education, and give you an outlook about implementation as well. You are part of a very, very important ecosystem, because at the retailer's point of sale, the new barcodes need to be scanned. That's the key part here for us discussing today. And not only at the self-checkout or men-checked out, as well in your inventory management and your online picking applications, or potentially in other back store applications like returns, for example. So you are here the one on the right side. Of course, we have to talk about transforming the whole ecosystem. We cannot scan the barcodes when the brand owners are not putting them on. So we as GS1 are working with the brand owners as well to get them on. And you, parts of you are brand owners as well for private labels. And then, of course, the consumers are the most important part why we are doing it. Because today's the consumers want to know much more about the product. They would like to know where it's coming from, who actually made it, how sustainable is the product. And to simplify, you can say they really would like to know how to use it, how to store it, how to reorder it, how to repair it, and potentially how to recycle it. And as you know, on your products, real estate on the packaging is really important. And we don't have a lot of space on the label and on the package. So with a connection to the digital world, so to a website, we have the ability to create more information for the consumers so that you can really engage more with them and provide all of these important informations to them. And when you think about recalls, the right to repair, returns, all of this kind of information is required, and you can do with this two-dimensional barcode. And of course, we don't want to slow down the checkout. So we want to make it fast and easy for you to get it scanned, and ideally self-manned scanned, that we are not slowing down the process. But as well, that's on the consumer side. But the key part for you is really to make it as more efficient and more productive in your supply chain. And I think you all are experiencing how hard it is at the moment to get bottom line and top line. So the more we can drive efficiency and productivity, the better it is for the whole ecosystem, and especially for you as well. To touching on 6 different areas where the 2D barcodes really make a huge difference. I touched already on the consumer engagement part, so I will walk a little bit now into the sustainability area, because some products are sold in New Zealand and in Australia, for example, and we don't want to put a lot of icons for how to recycle on. And product packaging, some products are recyclable in Australia, but others are not in New Zealand. So there's a little bit of a confusion here. Do we want to have 2 packaging item variations for it? No, we don't. We want to have 1 packaging for the efficiency here. And you can provide this information how to recycle, for example, and improve the sustainability here. When we come to inventory management, We heard at the first presentation with Retail NZ, with the large retailer organizations, how massive the issue is with fraud and theft. So when you, for example, embedded in your QR code a serial number, the police could potentially help to identify which products are really stolen and which products are really officially bought. And that can be done by this QR code. So there might be an idea just to spark your thinking around that. That might be a use case which we want to look into together and pilot this. Then we have the traceability. You want to make sure that you have the right products at the right time, at the right location. And ideally, you would like to have less stock as possible, because that's capital, which you don't want to have in store, but you want to make sure for replenishment purposes that the right products are available for your customers. When we go a little bit in the safety area, that can have two aspects here. For the non-food items, this is around how to use it. We just heard from the manufacturers for car seats for babies, for example. You want to make sure as a parent that this product is properly installed. How do you put that all on the instructions, which is in small letters nobody can really read? You can scan the QR code and you get a video how to install this baby car seat immediately. That's for non-food. For the food or grocery side, it is that the QR code can embed the best before date and a batch number. So that would mean when a product is expired, it won't scan at point of sale. So the shopping experience is enhanced. Your customer will not be able to buy an expired product. When you think about recalls in that area, you can stop that at point of sale as well. And you only have to recall the products which are really impacted by the recall and not the whole SKU. That's a huge, massive advantage, especially in the food and grocery area here. And the improved packaging, we spoke about that already. You can reduce the packaging and you can improve. It's called the connected packaging, that you can really engage with the consumers on that side as well. So to highlight these 6 areas where we have opportunities and use cases and the benefits, I would like to explain now a little bit more about the technology of the barcodes and a little bit of theory, not too much, because therefore we have other webinars. And Richard outlined already, we are transitioning from the linear barcodes for the stripy one, which I call it sometimes, to the 2-dimensional one, which is first of all much smaller than the stripy one. And you can embed it a lot more data, like a digital link, best before dates, serial numbers, country of origin, a lot of data you can encode into these barcodes here. Another really important thing for the logistic purposes, because we don't want to have any issues when you sell this product, is the 2D barcodes are more forgiven. So when you, for example, can't read it properly because a corner is missing, they can recorrect themselves and provide the data which are in there. When in the stripy one bar is missing, the scanner can't read it, and you have to have a shop assistant coming and helping you and typing it in the GT number. The 2D barcode is forgiven. As I mentioned today, it's really about the ambition for 2027 that we see already in a lot of other countries, like UK, for example. New products are only producing 2-dimensional barcodes because almost all retailer is able to scan a 2-dimensional barcodes. And when you think about products from overseas will come sooner or later into our markets, so we have to be prepared that we can scan these new barcodes as well. To mention the Consumer Goods Forum, they were driving this initiative with the major retailers and the major brand manufacturers. They were driving this initiative, and they were coming internationally together and say, hey, we really would like to drive this initiative and we are committed to have this aspiration, and we are going. You will see when you walk through some of the retailers, especially in food and grocery now, the 2D barcodes are already implemented and live and up and running. It is not something which is coming tomorrow. We are already in the transitioning and it is happening now. It's important that you get prepared and really start thinking about it. What does it really mean for you and in your business? Here, quick summary, I've outlined it. That's food and grocery, which kind of information you can connect to the consumer or to the product. But we have a lot of other examples, which I will outline in a second. You maybe have realized already, L'Oreal in New Zealand is already live with a QR code in this case. So when you as a retailer are able to already scan it, then you are lucky. If not, you still have the stripy one on the, you see that here on the left side of the package, you have the linear barcode here as well. So it is in a GS1 standard. One comment here for the ones who are really into the details. When you have a dual use of both barcodes, which we are seeing and facing already in the market, in the transition period, ideally you really put them nicely together. Otherwise, you're facing the chance that the product is getting scanned twice, which we don't want. So put them nicely together, and then the scanner will pick up the more sophisticated one first. Here's just an example what's in the digital link and the QR code. So you see there's a web URL that is for Garnier, for L'Oreal, and then you see the 01 for the GTIN number, the Global Trade Identification number, which will, to repeat that, will do the beep at the POS and is able to be scanned by a native phone to have the consumer engagement. And when you scan that, you see you go to a product website and you get all the nice information about the project. And when you walk through open eyes and through one of the yellow retailers for personal care products here in New Zealand, you will see already all the teenagers scanning the QR codes and checking out what's going on in Instagram and TikTok and all of this about this product, if this is a hip product or not. Some examples here from our colleagues in France. We have the Decathlon, I'm starting in the middle, for sports gear and sports equipment. They are using the QR codes for consumer engagement and POS. We see on the right side Monoprix, which is an apparel retailer, and on the left side that is Carrefour. As you might have faced that the Europeans have put up a European requirement for digital labeling for the wine imports. So you have to declare really all the ingredients of the wine and in a digital format before you're allowed to really export wine from New Zealand into Europe. It's not only New Zealand, it's everybody who wants to import wine into the EU. So they are mandating this. And before you add only the digital, so the compliance barcode, you just add the GTIN and then it does the beep at the checkout here as well. Let's move the countries or the continents. Let's go to Brazil. So you see here an example from Viva Mate Brazil. They had the challenge in the operations and logistic areas. To be honest, they couldn't find their goods. The goods were always there where they shouldn't be, and when they were demanded, they were not there either. So they decided to include QR code driven by the operations and logistic pain points they found to address it, and then they were getting into, oh, we can do consumer engagement then with that as well. They reported officially that they had a lot of improvements in their stock management. They were able to find the goods at the right time, and they had 100% accuracy for inventory data and reduced 4% in the shipping costs. So if you would like to know more, happy to discuss that offline, how they have done that, and we can dig into that a little bit later. But I think about the better forecasting and forecasting accuracy in terms of color, size, and location, that was here the key benefits. Completely different use case here, which we would like to share with you, is in the recycling return scheme for the packaging. So the QR code is able to be scanned at a return deposit. So, and is then by that, it will be scanned, and the recycling location is being able to reward the consumer and give the 5 cents or 10 cents back. There are trials at the moment, I think in one of our retailers, it will be a donation for that when you bring back the right plastic bottle. But with that, the machine which will receive the bottle or the container is able to sort as well accordingly. So there is information of what kind of packaging material it is. And based on that, they will guiding it into the right recycling process here. And it's the same barcode. It's just more information embedded, which the machine then can pick up. And when you think about that, that has an impact on the balance sheet as well, when you can prove that 80% of your packaging, for example, is recycled. Another example in the textile industry, or in the apparel industry. Here it was, they were facing a lot of paper waste basically for the information on their hang tags. So they said, okay, we digitalize this and we will bring it with a QR code closer to the shopper. Another one example, you maybe have known H&M. They are using the data matrix code, and maybe to make that really clear, this data matrix code can't be scanned by a consumer. This is only for their own logistic purposes, but it is consumer facing. So that is a really interesting use case here. They said they have so much need for a logistic improvement here, and they have embedded a data matrix. So they embedded the GTIN, the batch number, and the additional product identifier and the country of origin. Because as a global organization, that's important for them. Last example here, it is the Tasman Echo one. It's a baby bed, especially how to install it and disassemble it. So it's a digital kind of a digital product passport for the parents, that they know how to ensure health and safety. I would say it's now your turn. So this is the GS1 example. Get out your phones, and if you want to scan this QR code, the GS1 with a digital link, and you see one example, what kind of information you can provide here.
Look, thank you so much. Just a couple of quick questions to start with. Firstly, Blair has asked us, are the retail inventory heavyweights like, for example, Lightspeed, already working on this transition?
Blair, I can't answer the specific to Lightspeed, but I can tell you that all of the major point of sale manufacturers globally have been engaged with our technical teams at a global level for 2 years now. So I would be surprised if it's news to them. They should be well aware that 2D is coming, but I will make a specific reference and try and find that out for you. I can't answer the question right here, right now.
So Richard, what are some of the key questions that a retailer, so someone's on this call or they see the recording later on and they say, well, what do I need to ask my POS provider? What are the key questions they should be thinking about? Where would they reach out to get that support? Or do you have a FAQ document that we could circulate out to members? What's the starting point in terms of those things?
So good question, and Clary's just gone right to the last slide here, which is some tools to actually help you advance this discussion. And in the first instance, we've got a retailer scanner testing kit. So basically a bunch of 2D symbologies, which you can put in front of your equipment today and test to see whether it scans or not. And then clearly off the back of that, start a conversation with your provider, and indeed us if you need us to come in and provide any assistance. But that would be a good start point, is a stock take as to what can your kit do today versus what it might need to do in the future.
So someone else, Josh, has come in and said we need to upgrade all our hardware. Are there any considerations we need to make to ensure we're purchasing future-proof scanners? Absolutely. That's a really great question, right? Who wants to take that one?
Well, I can start it, and maybe Clary can chime in afterwards. You're right. If you've got laser scanners, that ain't going to do it. You're going to have digital scanners. So you need to sequence this with obviously your retirement of kit as you would normally do anyway. But yes, any hardware kits also need to be associated with any software upgrades as well. For example, this is a specific example, but it gives you a sense for it, where you've got a linear barcode, that is the stripy barcode, next to a 2D barcode. Need to make sure we have the software in place so that it just records one transaction at the point of sale and doesn't scan them both and sends both of them to your point of sale software. So there is a software piece to the puzzle as well. But yes, all of the future acquisitions of kit, given my earlier comment about all the major kit manufacturers have been involved with discussions with GS1 over 2 years now. They know what's coming. They've built to that. And there's nothing kind of more that's coming that they need to be aware of, other than they know the GS1 global standard that sits underneath all of this symbology. And as that gets extended, they're able to accept the extension, i.e. more attribute identifiers that are loaded into the symbology. So if you're picking up the latest generation kit now from those guys that are 2D compliant, and that must be GS1 2D compliant, because remember, we're discriminating here between a traditional QR code that you might see at a restaurant that you scan with your phone and you get the menu. It's not that. It's a GS1 compliant barcode with the digital syntax string behind it that provides the data in the right configuration so that everybody can read it, irrespective of where you are in the supply chain.
Another follow-up question from Caroline has asked, it looks like these are currently applied to packaging and swing tags. Could these codes also be sewn in or printed on garment labels to help identify material types for future end or life sorting?
Printed on a material that can receive the print in a reasonable quality, yes.
Yeah,
and in
Josh
fact,
from Barcodes has just come back and said that they actually have great success with printed on garments. So one imagines if they're printing things on now that you'd be able to print this QR or 2D code on so that people down the track, whether you're at a charity store or elsewhere, would be able to scan and work out where those things sit. Just to go back to something you raised earlier, you talked about the crossover between the 1D and the 2D. Do you want to just talk a little bit about what do you think that crossover time will be? Don't necessarily need the slide, but just thinking about, you're saying that, the 2D code's going to be in by the end of 2027. What's the life expectancy of 1D beyond 2027?
I don't know, is the honest answer. It really depends on manufacturers and retailers in terms of how quickly they embrace the new technology or how slowly it is embraced. We're not mandating it. It is entirely over to business to decide what's the natural rate. And indeed, in some regards, New Zealand has its own sort of view on that. But the trouble is, we're not an economic island operating in isolation. We've got products coming in from overseas.
Yeah.
And if, for example, the Brits are only exporting products with 2D on there, then we have a problem.
So retailers are going to have to think a little bit about their technology going to be able to have to take the 1D and the 2D at the same time, right? Because some suppliers will be coming in and they earlier with the 2D than 2027, and others will transition later. So I think it's about how they're going to manage and navigate their way through that space.
Yeah, and we've got plenty of resources and guides to help on that, and best practice recommendations as to how to do that.
So I think, Clary, when we were talking about the question from Caroline around, applying the code onto the garment was really not necessarily for scanning at point of sale, but more about information for later. So
yes.
Yeah.
But ideally we have the QR code for POS and consumer engagement, but for the garment, for circularity per reasons, for example, digital product passports, which we have mandated already in Europe, then you can really embed the QR code and in the garment, either stitched or printed. That's absolutely fine. I only pointed out it's the point of sale. Needs a specific resolution there. But you still have the hang tag for that. So it is possible. And it's great.
And our standards on that are to meet acceptable scan rates, which, as I understand it, is 40 items per minute. Is the global standard for acceptable scan rates.
And look, the concept here is that we make things easier, quicker, smoother, better for both retailer and consumer, so everyone has a better long-term experience. And so the key will be the transition and how we manage to navigate that in a smooth way. Anything we haven't covered?
Maybe the offer that as soon as you want to get into a pilot or thinking about it, feel free to reach out and we can have a first conversation to go a little bit deeper into it, to understand where the priorities are in your businesses, and then find a roadmap or a pathway where to start from.
So if somebody wants to get in touch, how best they do that?
Either Clary or myself, but pretty quickly it'll be Clary in terms of the detail, but there's our 2 contact details there.
Perfect. One obvious question from Phil. Sorry if this is a naive question. How does this differ from putting a QR code on an item linked to a website?
Because a QR code today, and there are many of them, just do that. They just link to a website item code. But that QR code in the future can hold not only the domain name of this instance, this product, but also the product identifier as well, and go beep at the point of sale. But in addition, you could also load into there, as we say, a batch number to help you as a retailer manage that product, or a serial number, so that you could actually track stock at the serial level. So think of it as a QR code that can do all the wonderful stuff talking to a website. In fact, there's some other tech we'll talk about called resolvers in the future, which will make that even better experience for customers. But think about it as a good old QR code that can do that, plus do a whole load more benefits for the retailer and the manufacturer around stock management, traceability in the supply chain, country of origin, you name it, a whole bunch of other attributes that you can ingest by a simple scan.
So Josh has come in with a statement here, which is kind of replying to Phil's comment. It said the string is of a specific format, otherwise it's technically the same standard to QR.
That's right. And it's that GS1 global string that makes it the same language for everybody to read.
Plus the point of sale beep. The normal QR can't beep. And we want to have them beep. We don't want to have multiple barcodes on the product.
Absolutely. Look, thank you so much, Richard and Clary, for this introductory session to our members around the evolution to 2D by 2027. There's lots to break down. There's lots to learn and find out for everybody as we work our way through this. So thank you very much for your time. We will be sharing out this information. But until next time, ka kite anō. Bye for now. Kia ora.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks a lot for having us. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Bye-bye.
Speak soon.